the reason I like the coaching model is because that really is what coaching is. Coaching is always about how you move forward.
Power to Live More with Jo Dodds.
Welcome to the Power to Live More podcast, all about productivity, organisation, well-being, energy and resilience. I'm Jo Dodds, and I started this show to enable interesting people to share their stories about how they use their power to live more, and by that I mean to do the stuff that they want to do more than the stuff that they need to or should do. It's about creating a life for yourself where you have the energy, health and space to be happy and fulfilled, spending your time as you'd like, whether that be at work, home or somewhere else entirely. That's your choice.
Hello, my name is Ellie Dodds and I'm co-presenter, and today Jo is interviewing Laura Lacy-Thompson. Laura is a rapid transformational therapist and a certified life coach. She helps female entrepreneurs increase their income and impact by removing their limiting beliefs, upgrading their mindset, and taking inspired action. For busy coaches, consultants, healers, and therapists who struggle to break through a five-figure ceiling, Laura offers a dramatic breakthrough in one-on-one coaching sessions. Back to the studio.
Today I'm interviewing Laura Lacy-Thompson, who's a rapid transformational coach for women. Welcome, Laura. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Jo.
And it's interesting, in the history of this show, yours will be show 161. I don't think I've had two people of the same name in consecutive weeks, but I had Laura McClellan on last week. So, so how strange is that? There's probably
that is strange, but it's funny. I've met a few Lauras lately. I usually don't meet any other Lauras, so I don't know.
There's probably some sort of mathematical rule about that, but we won't go there. Lovely. So telling us a bit about who you are, what you do, and where you do it.
Yeah, sure. So as you said, I'm a rapid transformational coach for women. So what that means is I work with primarily female entrepreneurs and professional women, and we work on their mindset. But what's a little bit different about what I do to usual mindset work is I use a combination of coaching and hypnosis and cognitive behavioral therapy. So we work on beliefs and thinking sort of at the subconscious, unconscious level. So we're really like clearing blocks that hold women back in their businesses and in their lives, right? Because it's all related. So that is primarily what I do. You might be familiar with rapid transformational therapy, which is a form of hypnosis. So I'm a certified practitioner in that, and I do it primarily online, but I am based in New York.
Right, okay, and we are recording this at the sort of beginning of May, so obviously certainly I'm in lockdown. I think New York, you've had it quite bad over there, so I think you're sort of getting out and about, but it's quite unusual, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very challenging.
Yeah, so from your point of view, the fact that you said you mainly do this online, that was, you did that before this sort of change?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, my business is primarily online.
Yeah. So not in common with many people who are now scrabbling to provide their services online. You were doing that already. So I'm really interested in hearing a bit more about how that came about. So how you became a rapid transformational coach, and also why you're doing that online, because a lot of people doing the sort of thing that you're doing wouldn't even consider going online with it. So I'm sure there's a story and a journey there, so please do share.
Yeah, there is a journey. So I have been a coach for about 5 years. My background is in psychology and counseling, but I decided to go, I like the coaching model better than the therapy model because it's forward looking, and I feel like it really can get people moving forward a lot more quickly than therapy, although obviously there's a lot of value in therapy. But when I became a coach, before I became a coach, I experienced a serious trauma in my life, and I was stuck myself, and I couldn't move myself forward. I couldn't move my business forward. I was going through a lot of changes in my life. Both my parents became ill, so I was caring for them. I got divorced. My kids were leaving for college. Like, all this happened within months. So, I was trying various things to sort of heal myself. And I came across RTT, rapid transformational therapy, and I had sessions with the therapist, and it really provided the breakthrough for me. And so I was like, I need to do this for my clients as well. I need to, share this with my clients. So what I did is I took the training and got certified as a RTT practitioner, and have incorporated that into my coaching practice. And the reason I do it online is my coaching business was already online, just because I found it easier to sort of get clients and be able to serve people in all different parts of the country and the world. And I enjoy that. And opportunity to serve more people, just a little bit different than the normal counseling therapy model of how you work with clients. And it's worked really well. And I know some of my clients initially say, well, I don't know about doing hypnotherapy online. How does that work? Yeah. And it works because of Zoom and the technology we have now. It works very, very well. And in some instances, the reason I like it for clients is they're doing it in the privacy of their own home. So when the session's over, when you come out of hypnosis and the session is over, you're in your own home. It's not like you have to get in the car now and drive. And so in some ways, it makes it, in some respects, more powerful and more personal, because you're doing it in sort of the safe place, the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point on that. And yeah, I guess there may be some sort of people, I was going to say therapists, I don't know whether you'd use that word to describe yourself, but people who do those sorts of therapies may be listening in this current crisis situation, having not thought they could do something online. And actually that's really interesting to hear, and actually gives it a real benefit. It's not just because you have to, it's because there's a real benefit to it, to the client.
And I mean, I know other therapists, not necessarily, there are other RTT therapists who do this online, and I know some actual, more traditional therapists have moved their businesses online as well. I think for more people, it'll, after we come out of this, it'll be more of a permanent way of working with clients for a lot of people.
I think, definitely. And I guess that sort of seems quite a logical conclusion, but I think the point you've just made about clients being in their own homes, actually there's so much opportunity there. If I just think about people sort of wanting to seek help, one of the hardest steps is doing that in the first place, and to give people a way of doing that where they don't have to leave the house, they don't have to pick up the phone, they don't, they just can go and research something online and then have that meeting without having to really do too much else in a physical sort of way. I can see that being a real benefit.
In some ways it makes it a lot easier for people. You're right.
And you talked about being more interested in coaching and less the therapy sort of side of things, because you see it as more forward thinking. Tell us a bit more about how you see that difference working.
So having done therapy as a therapist and having been a client of a therapist, therapy has a lot of value, especially if you have unresolved emotions. But what happens in therapy, and I've heard this from a lot of my own clients who said, well, I did therapy, but then, I talked about my feelings, but then I didn't know what to do next. People are looking for guidance. It's like, okay, now what do I do? I've talked about all those emotions. I'm feeling better, what do I do? And the reason I like the coaching model is because that really is what coaching is. Coaching is always about how you move forward. And because I think I have the benefit of, having that psychology and therapy experience, we can work on the deeper emotion while still at the same time moving the client forward towards goals. Because, there's not, for me anyway, there's not much point, if you're not going to keep moving your life forward. So even though you go through therapy and you clear some emotion, you can still be stuck in a way. Maybe not emotionally stuck, but sort of, okay, what do I actually do with this now? Because that behavior, because if we haven't worked on changing the behavior as well. So what I do is we change the beliefs and the thinking, and then we align that with the behavior. So, okay, what does my life look like now? And am I moving towards my goals of what I'm trying to achieve in my life? Am I creating a life that looks like what I wanted to? So that's why I like coaching. And I find it to be the combination that I'm using is, very effective.
And you talk about it being for women. Are there other particular sort of characteristics of the people that you work with?
Yeah. Most of the women I work with they're primarily entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, or some work in the corporate environment. And they're all sort of at a place in their life where they feel stuck, where they feel they know they want more and are capable of more, but really feel like there's something holding them back. And they've tried sort of, for entrepreneurs, changing their marketing strategy or hiring a business coach or, whatever it might be. But none of that is working because even though they have the right business strategy, they are holding themselves back. They don't implement because we're dealing with beliefs about success, about worthiness, about money, all that kind of stuff. So because it's beliefs create thinking creates emotion creates action, even though the action to take. If the beliefs aren't aligned, in many instances, you're not taking it. It's hard for a person to have a fear or a belief. And, people say, well, just do it even though you're afraid. That's challenging for a lot of people to do. So a lot of times we have to work through and clear the fear and the belief at the same time moving forward. So, that's primarily how it works.
So as somebody who's been working from home and working online for a period of time before, needing to now, how do you sort of organize that? How do you set up your days and how does that work with the clients as well?
Yeah, so I sort of lay out my week in there's certain days where I'll just work on my own projects, but primarily, people can use a calendar link to book an appointment with me. And I usually see clients, a few clients in the morning, a few clients in the evening. I try to make it as easy as possible for them and for me. And now it's as if, you were coming to my office to see me. I have it organized in a very similar way. The thing is, I don't have to commute.
Yeah.
And neither do my clients.
No.
So it works really well. And I've been doing it this way from the beginning of my business. So it's just the way it happens. It's, I don't really think about it as being different anymore.
No. And how do you sort of keep that division between sort of personal home life and work? Because it can be quite easy to slip into booking people in at all hours, can't it?
Yes. And I will tell you, at the beginning, I did do that, right? When you're starting a business, you're like, well, if somebody wants to be my client, I'm going to see them whenever it's convenient for them. So you really have to create a boundary there, and it does require discipline, but like I said, I have specific hours on my calendar. That's when I see clients. Occasionally you'll have someone who can't make it work, and then I decide whether or not I'll make an exception for that person. I have an office set up in my home, and when work is over, I shut that down and close the door and leave it behind. So it's really about sort of creating the physical boundary, the time boundary, and just creating that space. This is work, but when work is over, physically leaving that space, and not really allowing for it to just seep out into my entire life. It's pretty easy to do that, but I've gotten better at it, obviously, since as long as I've been doing this.
Yes, yeah. So how do you go about getting done what you need to get done? I think one of the challenges when you're a coach or somebody who works with people sort of one-to-one, even when you do get to do that from home, and so you've got bits of time between sessions and so on, it's quite, I certainly have noticed that I've picked up quite a lot of coaching just as we were sort of going into this situation, which is has been really fortunate for me, other than the fact that everyone else is, not everyone, but lots of people swanning around saying I'm learning how to, learning a new language. I've got all my knitting out of the cupboard that I haven't done for years, or whatever. Right. And I'm thinking I've got no time. And I know that I'm not coaching every hour of the day, but it feels like in the gaps, if I've got an hour between clients, that I don't fully utilize that hour sometimes, which makes it feel like that's the whole afternoon gone, and I didn't really get anything else done. So how do you make sure you get things done around the fact that you're talking to your clients, and that doesn't sort of mean that you drift from client to client and don't get the things done? Or is that maybe just me?
I try, the way I try to treat it is as if I were leaving my house to go to work. Okay, right. So this is my work time. So even if I have a break in between, I'm usually doing something work related, and then outside of my work hours is when I do other things, as if I was like, okay, I'm home from work now. So and I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but I don't. At first I thought about, okay, I have this hour, I really need to get something done. I've sort of dropped that whole approach over time because A, it's stressful, B, it ends up being not really productive, because you do, especially when you're talking to clients all day, you do just need some downtime. Yeah. I do anyway, to sort of process in order to feel like I can give them my best. And if you're talking to several clients a day, you want to make sure you have the bandwidth for that. So I don't really try to get stuff done during my work hours. I pretend, okay, I'm home from work now. What else do I want to do? And that works well for me. But it evolved into that. It wasn't like that at the beginning.
No. I think it's a really interesting idea, as you say, to make it very much the going to work bit, and that chunk of time is work, and then everything else isn't, sort of thing. Really, really.
And I know that's harder because I don't have children at home, and I know other entrepreneurs are the women who are working online and they do have their children home now, and I know that is a more challenging proposition. Because you have to deal with the needs of children. But for my situation, I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah. And what about technology for getting things done? What sort of tools and apps and sort of task lists and things like that are you using?
Yeah, well, Zoom is my best friend.
Yes.
That's for sure. I Zoom, I use, for people to book me, I use Acuity. Booking system, and I've used that since I began, and I really like it. It works well for me. I use Facebook Messenger and Facebook, obviously, Live to do, for content, and to do live videos to communicate with the groups that I have and the followers I have online. Let's see, what else do I use? I use Aweber for emails communication.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
There's all these trendy new ones, but I've been with Aweber a long time. In fact, I'm just about to be a certified Aweber consultant.
Wow. Yeah, I've had the ones I've been using, and I guess it's like that's the one you're comfortable with. That's the one I've been comfortable. And everybody, when people say, "Oh, you should try this app or this one," I'm like, "No, I'm really happy with what I have. I don't want to change it."
Yeah.
So so the primary things I really use are Aweber to send emails to my community. Acuity for booking, and Zoom for doing the actual sessions with my clients. Those are the three that I really can't live without, I would say.
Yes, yeah. It's interesting on the sort of tools front. I signed up on something recently. A guy called Mike Filsane, who's a sort of long-time internet marketer, has got a new system that allows you to have a sort of shopping cart, and there's going to be lots of other things in the end where you can run your webinars and all that sort of stuff from it. And I signed up because it was free to begin with, and I just thought I'd have a look at it. And then I was thinking about it only yesterday that in order to do that, I'd have to sort of drop Aweber, I'd have to drop some of the other things that I do, I'd have to change my processes, and I just thought I just haven't got the time, the inclination, or the need to do that. But it's interesting because when new software comes out that could actually tick a load of boxes, or add further bells and whistles that you don't have in another way, or do it in one tool rather than across 5 that you have to join together and all that sort of thing, that sort of development of technology that could be useful is worth sort of looking at. But you can get so bogged down in switching or learning something new and all that sort of thing. It's interesting, isn't it, to just think that often we end up getting all excited about something when we could just stick with what works and we don't need to move forward. But then you worry that the world's moving on and you're not with it.
Yeah, I mean, that is, but for me, because I wouldn't say that I'm a particularly technical person, and it maybe for some people who could learn that kind of thing quite easily, but for me, it becomes not worth the time, because I feel like the way I have it set up is very efficient and works for me. I mean, I would definitely, there's things that you have to add on, like I use Vimeo for posting any videos that I do, and there's things I've had to learn along the way. But as the primary way of doing business, it would take a lot to get me to change at this point.
Yeah, exactly. But it's interesting, I think about that in relation to Zoom. I remember when that first came along and a few people were raving about it, and I was using, for these calls, I was using GoToMeeting. And I was like, I really don't want to use Zoom. I don't want to learn it. And I went on to a couple of other things where I remember being on a webinar where I was the presenter, and I managed to switch off the video, but I didn't switch off my camera. So I thought the audience couldn't see me, but they could. So I spent a whole hour not looking at the audience at all. It was not my finest hour. And and it really put me off. And then I thought, I'm not going to use Zoom. I'm never going to use Zoom. And of course, now everyone's using Zoom, and I am using it, and I've swapped over. I still really like GoToMeeting, but I just couldn't justify paying for both platforms when I needed some of what Zoom did that I couldn't get on GoToWebinar without paying, GoToMeeting without paying, substantially more. So it's interesting, that some things do suddenly make themselves essential. And I guess Zoom is one of those things at the moment, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I don't know. No one's doing business without it, really. So
apart from all the governments who are now too frightened to use it, although I keep saying that with all the security releases that they've made over the last few weeks, it's probably the most secure of everything now, because they're addressing all the issues because they're having to. But that's probably my naivety.
Well, I mean, maybe, I don't know, but I never really worried about it, but obviously they've had to change the way they work because of how many people are using it now, and the security issues.
I think I've said on one of the earlier shows that when we first went into lockdown, my mother-in-law's book club decided they were going to give Zoom a try. So they're all sort of ladies of a certain age, probably over 75. And she'd used it the first time, and then of course all the sort of security stuff kicked off, and the next day she said to me, well, do you think it's okay? Apparently there's some security issues, and it did make me smile that didn't think we'd be worrying about people hacking into their book club discussion.
Oh, that's so cute. That's funny. But that's great that they're using it. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. Although, of course, it's like, I get the sort of microcosm of all the funny stories we have about Zoom when she comes back to, telling me that somebody couldn't get in, and somebody else had a lampshade going out of their head, and somebody else was trying to adjust the camera so that their double chin wasn't visible, and all that sort of stuff. So all her angst and their angst is the stuff that I have lived with for so
yeah.
So do you have other people that help you with your business? Do you outsource anything or have other sort of people?
I have a VA who works part-time with me.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's really just me. I have worked with sort of in trying to approach marketing and things like that. I've hired coaches and consultants to help, but that's for a limited amount of time.
Yeah.
But just day to day, I've tried to design my practice and how I work. I've kept it pretty simple so that, my goal was never to have this huge coaching empire. I like doing one-on-one work with clients because I feel the connection you get with someone one-to-one and the, you can dig a lot deeper with people one-to-one. So I prefer to work that way. So because of that, I've kept it really simple, and it's thus far not required me to, have a lot of other people working with me. Like I said, I've hired coaches for things like marketing. Yes. Because that's not my forte. But other than that, no, it's having the system in place and having the technology in place has made it pretty simple to just keep going it alone. I don't want to say I'm comfortable with it, but I am, and it's working. And so until it doesn't work, I won't change it.
Yes. No, exactly. And you talked about how you did make changes in the beginning around your sort of working practices and so on.
Yes.
Is that something that you're very aware of sort of reviewing and doing something about, or does it take sort of something quite painful to go wrong, an issue to sort of make you think about doing things differently?
Yeah. Yes. At the beginning, it was just what is going to work and not knowing what was going to work. If my clients, I'll change things if I notice like several clients are bringing up an issue about something not working, or they need something else in order to, in order to make this work the best for them. And if it's sort of, I hear a few clients saying the same thing, right? Then I would change. Or if I personally am feeling like it's, energetically, it's not feeling really good for me anymore, or I'm not sort of able to give my full focus and attention to clients, then I'll sort of examine it and say, okay, what needs to change? And usually it's not about how I do work, but it's more of a personal thing that maybe, I need to sort of go out and exercise more, or I need to, have more social time with friends or something like that. So usually it's more around me personally. And then,
I thought it was a really good point, the thing about your energy, how much energy you feel for something, and whether that's, waning and you need to then do something differently. I work with a volunteer movement in the UK, and we always say that we go where the energy is. And I think that's one of the key things as a solo entrepreneur, is actually to be aware, if you're doing something that you absolutely hate, or you're doing something that fills you with dread, or that just doesn't feel right, or whatever, then that's the time to examine and make the change, if you haven't done that sort of automatically already. But so many people, I think, carry on banging their head against a brick wall, or hating a certain element of their business and just don't do anything to change it.
Yeah. And I think I don't know, I think some people have the mentality of it's supposed to be a struggle like that. Like they're supposed to feel it's a struggle. And that's sort of the work that I do is like, no. It's supposed to feel good, not be a struggle. The other thing I think that really helps me is I have a few other women who are coaches and entrepreneurs, and I stay connected with them. So I bounce things off of them. This is happening. What do you think about this? Have you been experiencing this? And just having a few people in a similar situation that you can sort of just connect with and chat about it and bounce things off of, that really helps too.
Absolutely. So you mentioned maybe if, for example, you need to get more exercise or something. What about how you sort of look after yourself? I mean, obviously we're in a different situation at the moment, although you said you have a dog, which I think in this lockdown is actually quite fortunate. My friends in Italy, when they were first on lockdown, they were only allowed to go, I think, to the local shop, literally like the local corner shop, and they were allowed to walk their dog. And they said that their dog was like the most popular animal in the street, because to begin with, they just used to lend him out.
Yeah.
So that's one of the ways that you keep yourself fit and healthy. What sort of other things do you do?
I play tennis, although I'm not doing that now. I love tennis. It's my favorite sport, and I really miss it because it's not on TV. It's nowhere. So I do that. I play tennis in a league, and that's nice because that's very social as well. Yes. So I really enjoy that. I'm kind of a competitive person, so I like playing on a team and competing. I'm competitive in some things, but really not in others. So that's one of the things, and I love tennis because it sort of, not only do I get exercise, but it's social, it's challenging, it's something that you're never ever going to be able to master. So trying to get better is really interesting and challenging. Yeah. So I do that. I have a morning routine where when I get up, the first thing I do is I journal. I do something called morning pages, where you just write 3 pages in a journal, and it could be about anything. So I do that. My routine is I do that in the morning before I get out of bed, and then get up, throw on whatever clothes are available, and take my dog for a long walk. And then come back and sort of start the day.
So how did the morning pages come about? I know there's a book about it. I've just done a whole series of blog posts about journaling, and morning pages came up as part of that. But how did that come about for you? Because I think for some people it's just a bit daunting, regardless of whether it's good for you or not, the idea of writing 3 pages every morning at least.
It's it does feel daunting, but I have been journaling on and off for a long time. And the part of my life I talked about earlier, where I was sort of, it was traumatic, and there were a lot of challenges, and I found that sort of using journal prompts and writing about a specific thing, I actually found that more difficult, because my mind was sort of all over the place, really, a little bit. So what I liked I read about morning pages, and I looked into it, and I was like, I'm going to try this. And what I liked about it is that it didn't matter what I wrote, whatever was in my head, I could get it out of my head and just write it down. And there was no, I had to think about pondering a deep question about my life, because there was so much of that going on in my head. I just wanted to write things down. And so it takes less than 5 minutes to write 3 pages in a journal. So
personal question here then from me, because I've done daily gratitude, where I've done 3 things I'm grateful for every day, and I get to the stage where I get a bit repetitive with it, and sometimes I do it and for a while, and then I stop again, because I'm feeling like I'm just regurgitating the same things, and I haven't done lots of it whilst we've been in lockdown, probably for the same sort of reasons, although I am very grateful for lots of what I'm experiencing. But it strikes me, if I struggle with the idea of repetition when I'm only writing 3 lines, how does it work when writing 3 pages?
Sometimes it is the same thing, but I take that as sort of, if I'm writing about the same thing, whether it's, if it's something good, then I just sort of, this still feels good to me, so I'm just going to write about this. But if it's something that keeps coming up and I haven't resolved, I know I'm still processing it, and maybe it's something I need to look at a little more closely, or maybe change my perspective on, or talk with somebody about that. But it's funny that it doesn't, I think the part of what you're talking about with journaling is that we kind of put a little pressure on ourselves to like write something super interesting.
Yeah.
And if we don't, if it's just the same thing, we think that, it's supposed to be something else. Yeah. And I think this is so true in so many parts of our lives, that we think it's supposed to be something else. And when it's not, that's when we don't feel great. So I think the trick is, or not the trick, but the benefit and how to get the most out of journaling is to not really judge what you do or what you write, is just okay, this is how I feel. And I think when you release that, you're able to go deeper and other things come up. When you just say, well, whatever it is, and I'm just going to let that happen, and without any judgment that, my journaling isn't really very good, or my gratitude, I should have more things to be grateful for. It doesn't matter.
And I suppose the reality is no one else is going to read it, so it really doesn't matter, does it?
It doesn't matter.
Read it back yourself.
Yeah, and sort of, so you ask the question, you could start to ask different questions just about sort of, why is this coming up for me again and again, and sort of as an opportunity to look a little deeper at certain things. Yeah.
So what about sort of learning and improving yourself and keeping sort of on top of your sector, if you like? Not the sector's not the right word for it, but your rapid transformational work. That's probably I'm trying to generalize. How do you keep up to speed on all of that stuff?
Yeah, well, I'm the kind of person that if I could, I would just for my whole life have gone to school, really, and been just a student forever. So I'm naturally a person who seeks out to learn. I listen to a lot of Audible books, and I listen to a lot of podcasts. Yeah. I do that. I do read a lot as well, although I have to say I don't read as much as I used to. And it's sort of on my list. I want to go back to just reading books instead of listening to them so much. Yeah. But I'm just naturally inclined that way, and sort of Audible, and there's a lot of podcasts out there to listen to. So, but mostly I find books that are either in the field of psychology or mindset, or what in that genre of books, and just listen to a lot of books and read a lot of books.
It's funny. I used to listen to a lot of podcasts. I've never been able to really listen to books. I think it's because I have to. When I read books, I read full chapters, and the listening doesn't work that way, because I'm often, doing something that's taking longer. So I get halfway through another chapter and then I can't stop and all that sort of stuff. It's weird. But then I thought I do a podcast. That was a silly thing to say, as I'm in it at the moment. I was thinking that the podcast listens would probably go up during the sort of lockdown time, because people would have more time. So, yeah. I've noticed it's the opposite, and I'm not surprised now, because I've listened to far fewer of my podcasts during the time.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not, as I said, I'm not one of the people who's had lots of time to do, hobbies that I haven't done for years and everything else anyway.
Right.
But I also think that I listen, like I listen when I go walking, and I listen when I go into London when I'm on the train and things like that. and I've lost those opportunities. So I think I have to make more time to listen, and I've got less time. So unless I sort of, I don't know, when I'm cooking, I remember to listen. I'm not listening to very much at all, and I think possibly I'm not the only one looking at, you know, the figures on the podcast at the moment.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? Because you listen to those when you're commuting or out walking. Yeah, that would make sense. And people, like you say, like, we're going to do a puzzle, we're going to play a game, we're going to knit, we're going to do, people are looking for more other things to do, where before they just wouldn't think that way.
No, and I guess the other thing I hadn't thought about, I'm just reflecting now, is it's not generally a social thing to do. It's an independent thing to do. So if there's a whole load of you in your house, unless everyone wants to listen to the same podcast, you'll not have the opportunity.
Yeah.
The amount of times I have to switch off Radio 5 Live, or I don't know, some other awful radio station that my husband listens to in the kitchen. So it's a bit like, you know, I go down, I turn it to Classic FM. He comes down, he turns it back to whatever he was listening to. I go down, I then turn and then he comes down and she puts it onto some sort of pop music. So it's who's in charge of the Alexa today?
Oh gosh, that's funny.
Lovely. So moving on to the last couple of questions. Firstly, what about those days when it all goes horribly wrong and things aren't going so well? How do you deal with that?
I kind of I try not to fight with it and just surrender to it, really. I had a day like that, to be honest, yesterday, where it's just, I woke up and it was like, no. The only thing is, when I have clients, obviously, I have to do something to make sure that I'm present for them.
Yeah.
And then that's what I'll do, like either a little bit of a mindfulness exercise or just to get myself present. But the thing is, when I talk to my clients, once I get started on the phone with them, I have to be so present with them, whatever else is bothering me or not going well, for that period of time, I can just release it and it's gone. Yeah. But what I used to do is, I was like, okay, you got to make yourself feel better. But now, because of what I've learned just from what I've been through and, you know, doing this work for a long time, I just, however I feel is how I feel. I don't hang on to it, but I just let it come and go, and usually it'll resolve. I think that for people, when they have sort of difficult emotion, they try to get rid of it as fast as possible, because it's uncomfortable. No one wants to feel that way. But I think that's where long-term issues actually could dig in for you, because you've got to, what I've learned in mindfulness and doing hypnosis is you've got to accept it, allow it to come, and process it, and then let it go. But if you're just avoiding it or pushing it away, that doesn't work. I always take that kind of emotion as a signal of, okay, there's something I need to sort of look at. Yeah. And so let me just let it be there and see what comes up.
Yes. Yeah. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I was thinking Easter weekend, but that doesn't feel like it was right at the beginning of this scenario. But I think it was then. I think it was Good Friday. I just literally didn't get up until I don't know what time, and I read a whole book. And my husband came in, and I said, I'm getting up and just reading my book. And he's like, right, how's it going? Well, you know, don't know what else I can do really in this current sort of situation. Right. And he was like, yeah, point. And that was the first time I'd read a whole book in a day in years, because normally, you know, you've got so much to do and you're always hustling and stuff. And yeah, I just gave myself that time, because I didn't really know how I felt about the world and what was going on. So I just thought, I'll just hunker down and read a book. And that was lovely.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, I think if you can trust that and just, like, you know, allow yourself to do and be however it is that you're feeling that day, that ultimately that works best. Yes. It becomes a problem if you sort of get stuck there. Yes. But I think the stuckness comes, my experience is the stuckness comes from sort of pushing it away and then sort of raging about it, and then pushing it away, and then, you know, so you're you're in conflict with it. When rather than just saying, okay, this is how I feel today, so we're going to go with this. I'm going to stay in bed and read a book.
Yeah. I think in some ways it feels more sort of doable with resolvable or whatever if when you sort of rationally acknowledge that to yourself as well. I think that people say, don't they, give yourself permission when you do sort of make that decision. I think that that can be really helpful as well.
Yeah, it's what I was talking about before. If people, when they want it to be a different way than what it is and they fight against it, that's when we feel stressed and we feel anxious and we get afraid. And because and I know this is true I used to live in England, and my daughters live in England. So there's this sort of British mentality of we're just going to carry on, right? No matter how we feel. And that's not always helpful.
No, it's interesting that one of my frustrations at the beginning of all this, before we had the sort of instruction to not go out, is that I live in a town where there's a lot of older people. And as you walked in town that week when no one had really been told to do anything about it, but we were all sort of getting the message, it was all the older people, and I kept saying to everyone, it's the Keep Calm and Carry On Brigade. They're just the people who lived through the war. They're just carrying on as if there's no problem. And,
right.
It was quite interesting to see. So it was a bit of that combination of the Britishness and the Keep Calm and Carry On spirit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's interesting because being from New York, which is sort of, we sort of let our emotions out a little more easily. But like I said, I lived in England for a time, and my daughters live there, and it's culturally there is a big difference with how people sort of process their emotions and what they allow themselves, to acknowledge or express. It's interesting.
Yeah. So the last question is, what about those days where you get to live more? And that's where I talk about getting to do more of the things that you want to do and less of the stuff that you don't want to do. What do those days look like for you?
Those things are less on those days. It's more talking to my clients, making connections with people. All the other stuff that comes along with being, having your own business, the things we talked about, systems and technology and all that, I can find that to be sometimes a little bit draining. But the energy for me comes, and I feel like I've really done something valuable, is when, I have those moments with clients where they have a breakthrough. And to know that sort of I help guide them in that direction. That feels really important to me, and that's the most satisfying thing for me. The other thing outside of work is I love to travel, which obviously I cannot do now. And the thing that I love is just being someplace that I've never been before, and sort of encountering the culture and the people in someplace new. I find that really, I don't think there's anything better than that.
No. Oh, well, fingers crossed that we'll be able to do that again soon.
Yeah, I really hope so.
So thank you, Laura. It's been great interviewing you today. Really lovely to have a conversation with you. Tell people how they can find out more about you and connect with you.
Yeah, so anybody who would like to connect with me, they could go to my website, and it's just lauralacythompson.com. Also, I'm on Facebook, Laura Lacy-Thompson. It's pretty straightforward. But my website is the best place to sort of make that connection. You can see what kind of work I do, and you can reach out, and we can have a chat about, whatever it is you're interested in.
Yeah, lovely. And that's Lacy without an E, isn't it? Because I
without an E, with a hyphen.
Done that, and then Thompson with a P.
Correct. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you, Laura.
All right. Thank you, Joe. Great to talk to you.
this information is available in the show notes. If you go to powertolivemore.com / in this case 161, then you'll find them there. And this week I just want to mention Counterpoint Networking again, which is my online networking group that meets every Monday at 2 o'clock British Summer Time for an hour, although I'm around for the hour following that if people want to carry on chatting. We had a really good meeting this week, and we had an opportunity to go into breakout rooms and meet as many people as we could and have a conversation with them. We did some learning. I shared some resources around how you can sign and complete PDFs on your computer rather than having to print them off and fill them in by hand and scan them and everything else, and also about how to create email signatures. And some of the attendees had some recommended apps as well, so we've shared those in the Counterpoint Networking membership site too. So we did a bit of learning, and then about half the group stayed around for about half an hour after the main meeting finished, catching up and having one-to-one conversations with people that they particularly wanted to develop a bit more of a relationship with. So it worked really well this week. If you're interested in finding out more, please do go to counterpointnetworking.co.uk, and you can register for the next meeting if you'd like to come, which is on Monday the 8th of June, or if you're listening to this later, then it should be on the next Monday to whenever you're listening to this. So that's Counterpoint Networking. And then the other thing to mention briefly is an event that I'm involved in that kicks off on Saturday. It's an online training event, or online learning event, should I say, called Click Seminars. It's born out of an event that used to be held live in real life back in the day, a number of years ago. And it was a team of people who went around the world bringing together some great speakers to talk about basically online marketing in one shape or another. And they used to run 4-day events in all sorts of places like London and America and Australia and so on. And they haven't done that for a while. And then in recent weeks, with the lockdown situation and the world changing so much, Tom Hua, who heads up Click Seminars, decided to set that up and run an online version of what used to happen in real life. So it's happening over 7 days. It kicks off on Saturday afternoon UK time, and it'll be a whole group of speakers from all around the world. So we've got a whole global group of speakers who are speaking, and they're talking about all sorts of aspects of starting an online business or running an online business better. And so that'll cover things like trading, Kindle, coaching businesses, how to decide what business to run, how to write a book, all sorts of topics. So if you're interested in learning and signing up and finding out more about online business, then you can go to powertolivemore.com /click seminars, and you'll be able to register. There are 3 sessions every day for the 7 days, and we've just actually been talking about 3 more speakers that we're going to add in potentially to make that even more good value for the week. And once the speakers are live and you have access to their talk, you'll get continued access for the remainder of the week. So if you're not available to listen at that particular time, then there will be plenty of time to catch up on the learning throughout the week. So really exciting, and it's actually come together really quickly. It's an idea that was only hatched a few weeks ago, so it's been interesting to see how quickly we can pull it together and deliver a really professional learning experience for you. So if you're interested, go to powertolivemore.com /click seminars, and I'll see you there next week. And the show notes for the show are at powertolivemore.com /161. We look forward to speaking to you next week.
Use your power to live more.